Hi, and welcome to Chiro Central. It's a chiropractic portion of the Max Life Show. I'm here with a great doctor, Dr. Blake Livingood. He actually went to the part of the world I wanted to practice in most. He's in Cary, North Carolina, right outside Raleigh, Durham. We're here on site at the Maximize Living Experience, and we're talking about interference today and how interference really is what destroys health, even destroys lives. It's a powerful concept. Not many people understand it, so we have one of the foremost experts in this in the world, because if we can remove interference to health, to healing, or really anything, it allows you to fully express everything that God intended you to be. We're going to talk about the good news today, and the good news here is how interference being removed, in this case talking about subluxation, can release some pretty powerful stuff in your body. So this is an actual article here, Dr. Blake. It's Dr. Patricia Brennan, a PhD. She was able to show that when people got a chiropractic adjustment, it actually caused white blood cells to increase. It was this burst. So essentially, it was this immune response. So I know, when you adjust somebody, you expect big things to happen. So just explain that a little bit to us, please.
One of my favorite, one of my favorite things about the power of the adjustment is understanding the power of the body. And I think we're so undereducated on the power of what actually happens inside of us. I mean, you look at some of the stats. It's my favorite thing to teach in churches and when we speak around the RDU area, that you just look at something like the heart, that literally in a 24-hour period of time, it puts off more energy and power to lift 3 Greyhound buses off the ground. And the thing that's controlling that is that nervous system. And so every time I get to lay my hands on someone and remove pressure off of the nerve, this life force that goes to the heart has that capacity, let alone the countless other things it can do in the body.
Yeah. And you're a brand new dad.
Yes.
10 days ago, 11 days ago now, little Sullivan was born.
Yes.
And so when we think about what we want to teach our kids, if there's anything really to focus on, it's their self-esteem or how they value themselves. How powerful do they think they are? You want Sullivan to believe he's powerful. Yeah. And unfortunately, when we look at life from a perspective of being a victim, like, and when he goes to school, somebody might sneeze on him or lick him and make him sick, you're depowering your kid. You're saying, there are little things, you can't see them, but they exist and float outside you that can bore their way into you and make you sick. That the other people can influence your health, versus what we're saying here is there's something very powerful. So as you think of how you're going to educate your son and how you educate your patients, you're talking about teaching them about being powerful, being a cause in their life.
Yeah. I've had a blast with it over the last 9 months with my wife, because if you just think about the power of that power which formed him in the womb, she wasn't sitting there thinking about grow an arm. It was just happening, and explaining to her and to all of our patients, and then eventually to him, that's what's now continuing to run him, that power that created him. So if it got him to that point and got him out healthy, it's what's going to continue to sustain him. But I feel like we really have robbed a lot of people of that, and we've took that hope away. But that's what Maximize Living doctors stand to give back to people, give that hope and understand that they are powerful.
It's almost you're born and like, okay, I trusted God for 9 months to make it happen. Now I'm taking over.
Yeah.
So here's what you're missing. God forgot a few things. He forgot these 4 vaccines right there in the birthing room.
Yep.
He forgot these antibiotics. He forgot these other drugs. We're going to start changing things now. And somebody once said to me, I thought this was powerful when I was at your point in life. Mine are, of course, much older now, but that in that one cell, everything we learned in chiropractic school, microbiology, pathology, chemistry, biochemistry, everything in science that we learned is all already known by that one little cell. And that's this very powerful thing that now becomes billions of cells and becomes this powerful little Sullivan. And for the people watching, you're powerful too. And so the point is that there is this power, there's this intelligence, there's everything that made you that is still on the job and keeps making you and remaking you and protecting you from everything that's out there, healing you and keeping you well. So since that's there, what problems could we run into? What's the biggest issue we can run into?
Just interfering with it when you mess with it. It's my favorite analogy is when you think about having a live person laying here and a dead person laying here, and you could give that dead person you could give them the best food in the world, the supplements, the drugs, vaccinations, injections, and nothing would happen. And if you put those things into a live human being, something happens. And so that's just proof that there's life inside of you, as long as you just get out of the way, because it's smarter than all of us, any doctor on the planet. I formed a baby in my wife's womb. I have no idea how that happened. I had very little part in that entire process. And the baby comes out amazing. But it's that power. Just get out of the way, remove the interference.
When people, and hopefully you're not going to have like 5 or 6 kids, because when people do that, I always say, they know what causes that now. If you take it on a big scale, so if you look at the fact that, we're messing up the ozone, or we're messing up the rainforest, we're messing up the waters, the reality is those things would just be fine, and they don't need our help. We can't fix those things now. We can't fix the ozone. We can't fix the jungles. We can't fix our waters. What we should do is not interfere. If you take man out of the equation, the ozone begins to thrive again, the jungles begin to thrive again, the waters cleanse themselves. They can make a comeback if we stop messing with them. Yeah. And so when it comes down to your body, it's really the same way, that if we can, of course, ideally, everyone who's listening or watching is saying from the very beginning, from birth. I always say that really babies and small children are the only ones who can truly achieve their potential, because we can remove the interference right off the bat and keep it that way, so as they're forming and developing, everything's doing it at 100% of their God-given potential. Mm-hmm. As an adult, you've now stymied that with all kinds of things we do to interfere with it, so we're trying to do the best we can later on, but ideally we start like with Sullivan.
Think about it like a pond. And if you had a pond and there was fish in the pond, and it was completely a terrible environment, there was no healthy food in there, there was toxins in the water, and all of a sudden we started getting deformed fish that were extremely sick. Your solution wouldn't be to remove the fish and perform a surgery on them, or pour more toxins into it, or medication. You'd clean up the pond water. And so really just empowering and teaching our kids that, hey, the life force in that water knows how to sustain fish, keep them well. If you just stay out of the way from it, we stop messing with it. But I think we've been surrounded in bad pond water,
Yeah, the body doesn't need help, it just needs no interference. Yeah. We use the same analogy. We say if there's one dead guy, one guy that's just hanging on for dear life, who's got a chance of making it? And while that power is still present in that body, if we can remove the interference for that person to heal, this guy can make it. Yeah. And so wherever anybody is right now, you can make it, but we have to remove the interference. So what's the chief cause of interference in a human body?
When you look at really simple, let's stick with Sullivan. What was the very first thing formed in him? It was his nervous system. And you can go to a doctor's office, you go to a hospital, you can ask any doctor on the planet, what is the most important system in the body? And it's the nerve system. And that's protected by the spine. And when that spine shifts, it's called subluxation. It's literally blocking the life force getting into the body. And when that is removed, you enable that power that's infinitely smarter than all of us to go to work and actually heal the body.
Yeah, and I think people get that. Like, you cut the nerve to a tooth, it is dead. That you've fully interfered with that tooth to be able to live, and that's end of the line. If you cut nerves to the heart, then the heart is dead. Yep. There's just no two ways about that. It doesn't sit, like in a sort of a free-floating environment in your chest, right, and just beat. That doesn't work that way. And so the idea then obviously is that if we were to interfere with any of those things, then clearly it may not die, but it can no longer function like it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. Pretty simple concept. We've seen it work in our offices thousands and thousands of times, where you remove that interference, and regardless of what is going on, that thing begins to get better. Yep. And it's pretty simple, but it's something, yet people still have trouble understanding.
Yeah, I mean, people start popping in my head. We were just talking about immunity, and there was a gentleman that came in at stage 4 liver cancer, and he's got a couple months, and a couple adjustments, we went a few months. He goes back in and gets tested, and what we were just working on is releasing that power, free the nerve up, going to the liver. It wasn't cut, but it was pinched, and you could see it in the X-ray. We have the testing, the diagnostics to look at it and know there's damage, and it reverses. And they're baffled on how something like that happens, but. That's what it's about, is finding those people, removing that interference, and allowing that body to heal, because it'll do it every single time. Yeah,
it's not just common, it's likely. Yeah. So, Sullivan, I'm sure mom's taking great care of herself. She's being adjusted, born in a natural environment. We did as little as humanly possible to interfere with Sullivan's body, his spine. He was as healthy as possible coming out, but yet I'm sure you still checked him right away, because it's still a traumatic experience either way. Yes. But yet in most cases, the mom is numbed, the doctor is pulling hard at that neck. So right from the very beginning, there's issues. Then a child falls enough in an hour to hospitalize or kill a normal adult.
Yep.
And so we're doing that to our spines throughout our life. And then there's football and baseball and basketball and falling off your bike and everything else you do as a kid
Yep.
to traumatize your spine. Now I'm looking at kids bent over their phones all day long. Yeah, you got texting neck, texting back, texting everything, computer everything. The chance of somebody not having interference is pretty minimal, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel like a dentist of 50 or 60 years ago sometimes. They come around the classroom and they got the big teeth and they're showing you how to brush and floss it. But you could take the teeth out of your mouth and you put dentures in and you'd be okay. You'd look a little funny, but you'd be all right. But you get one spine and nerve system. And people really grasp this. And they ask, can it be really that simple? And yes, you only get one, and everything they're doing during the day almost is working against that, let alone the law of gravity pushing down on us constantly. So we're creating it.
Yeah, and you can live without your teeth, but you can't live without your spine and nerve system.
No.
Another article here, and these are medical journal articles. This was something done in a Journal of Orthopedic Surgery, and they found that there was a 88% improvement in people with asthma under chiropractic care. And what they found is it was this interference created in the thoracic spine that would pinch the nerve, obviously interfering with that nerve's ability to control the function of those lungs.
Yep.
And so, we don't treat something, but what happened there? Chiropractic adjusts these kids, and a large study, and these kids' asthma went away. How's that possible?
I teach nearly every patient. I actually use an example like this in the office because we do a lot of educating because it's just we don't know as a culture yet and understand this concept. And I teach them about a 14-year-old girl, and this is what gets me going as a doctor, understanding, depending on statistics you look at, there's some 45 million prescriptions written for just asthma medications alone in the last couple, per year in the last few years. And no one's bothering to ask the question, why is that child not breathing normally in the first place? And when you look at we went, for this particular case, you look at the bottom of the neck and there's damage and there's just no life going to those organs. So could you have that and not know it? Absolutely. But in this case, they knew it because she wasn't breathing normally. But what kid doesn't deserve to at least have that checked and know if there's any organ shutting down?
Yeah, we have just this happened 2 nights ago. There's a kid we know the parents, and he's actually been hospitalized. According to them, he almost died from an asthma attack. Yeah. So they weren't able to get to the hospital the other night. Kid's starting to have another asthma attack again. They call us up. My wife says, come on over, we'll adjust him. Yeah. So he comes in, right there where this thing's about to go bad, adjusts him, instantaneously, it's fine, it's gone.
Yeah.
And again, it's not that we treated something there. Yep. There was interference. He's got a massive, massive set of subluxations in his lower neck and upper thoracic spine. So I don't know how anybody doesn't have asthma or something else when their spine is that bad. Yeah. So to think that I would take an inhaler and treat that with these aggressive steroids rather than remove the interference just to allow the body to be healthy. And that's what I'll say to people like, well, I'm talking to my medical doctor, I'm talking to you, and I even have had people say, no, you're against the medical doctor and they're against you. I'm like, listen, I'm not against anybody. You have 2 options. You can treat the symptom or correct the cause and get completely better. So would you rather treat it, you could cut it out, you could take drugs for it, or would you like us to correct the cause so that you can be well? It's simply your choice. I'm not against one person or the other.
I always use the fire alarm, smoke alarm analogy. I mean, it's going off, there's a problem, you're not breathing, your blood pressure's off, your immune system, you keep getting sick, and then we just come along and pop the battery out. What's still there? The fire, and what's going to happen to the building eventually? And it's just simple stuff with breathing. It's like, look down, if you're listening right now, and take a deep breath in, and then look up and take a deep breath in, and which one's easier, so just really helping people understand these concepts because it's revolutionary, but it's a really simple idea. Just keep the interference out of there, let that system go to work. Yeah,
and there's actually a study that shows when you have your spine out of position like most people do with their neck out this direction, forward head posture and reverse cervical curve or a loss of curve, you've got as much as 30% less lung capacity. Yeah. And then you add to that the compression on the nerves going to the heart and lungs, your cardiovascular system is working overtime, you're not getting the oxygen in your body that you need, and you're evanescing towards disease. And this is the state of most people in the world today. And I want to finish off with this because Because yes, we can correct that, and there'd be better lung capacity, and the heart would work better. It sounds kind of mechanical though.
Yeah.
And there's something supernaturally powerful about the body, and I want Sullivan to know this. I want my 3 kids to know this, and I want everybody out there to know this, that there's something powerful about you. And we sometimes, everybody's Dr. Ben, Dr. Ben. Sometimes we'll call the patient doctor because there's this amazing doctor in that patient that can heal and has healed virtually anything. So you talk about whether it's been cancer, heart disease. There are people that have gotten over the worst of the worst conditions, even on death's door, because of this powerful healer that's inside of them. Yeah. That simply happens when the body begins to function normally again. Yeah. There was one last study. This is on AIDS patients, and most people would think AIDS, get to the chiropractor. That's not people's first thought. Right. We actually had an entire bus of AIDS patients that would come in our office 3 days a week, and we got amazing results. And this actually study showed that the issue with AIDS patients is that their immune cells, the cells that fight things off in your body, go down. And one of those types of cells is called a CD4 cell. And they showed as much as a 48% increase in CD4 cells when somebody's being adjusted. Yeah. And so that's what people don't realize, is that we adjust you. Obviously, treating AIDS is, attacks the whole body, attacks the immune system. So we can't get in there and, go after your liver, go after your thymus, go after your spleen, start trying to get your body making different, red blood cells and white blood cells better or differently. We turn the power on. Yeah. And something very powerful happens. To try to describe that. Sometimes it's hard to do because it's so freakishly supernatural, right. but do the best you can.
I ask, number one, at the end of the day, your health is whose responsibility? It's your own, so you don't give it away to nothing outside of you is going to help you that. So we have to empower people to be the doctor. And I always ask them, who's the greatest doctor in the world? And if they say Dr. Livingood, I tell them they're wrong every single time because I can't take a lick of credit for what happens in there. But there's that, there's that intelligence inside of there. And we have piles of this research. Just you take an AIDS patient and you can lay your hands on them, remove interference, and then the body heals. Well, I'm going to do that same thing to a person that doesn't have AIDS because they never want to end up at that point. Until we can get to a point, it's just like your car. If you're taking regular care of it, you're not waiting for it to break down and then try to do something about it. But it is hard to grasp, and when you understand it as a doctor, though, you start to realize that while you're just the educator and the teacher, and the body is really what's doing it, and the greatest doctor in the world inside of them, you can really empower people to take charge of their health when you give the power back to them. Where I think the power has been completely stripped because they always have to turn to someone else, and really they need to turn to the inside and remove the interference.
Yeah, and what I like what you said is because you said whether it's AIDS or somebody has no condition. Yeah. The idea is to maximize the function of your body and its ability to heal itself. And we do that, we remove the interference. That's actually our first code in Code Red. We remove interference and maximize your potential. Remove interference, maximize your potential. If you can learn to do that, then you've given yourself, your family, your best shot at health in the future, regardless of what condition you have or not. Healthcare will only get better when we've removed interference on a consistent basis and the amount of sick people is going down, then healthcare has a chance to improve. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you one last thing. We have something we call in my professional opinion.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
You now have a baby, and and you're of course thinking about his next 100 years. So, talking about this from a standpoint of empowering that kid. Yeah. What would you tell the other dads watching? Lots of people watching with small, medium, large kids. What would you tell them about how you're going to develop a powerful kid?
Gosh. If you have a child, you just look at him, and him only being 10 days old, it's pretty emotional, just even thinking about him. But you realize the child is brought here for a reason, and there's breath in their lungs and your lungs for a reason, and there's a reason they got up today. And I just want him to know that, and know that there's a purpose of why that they're here, and they can't reach that unless they're healthy. And Dad's job every single day is for him and for everyone else around us in our town and our areas is to go let people live up to that. And so I want him to know that he's got potential in order to help other people reach their potential. It's like, let your light shine so that others can shine around you even brighter. And I guess in my professional opinion, there you go, I guess.
Sounds like he's going to make it a better world.
It's hard to capture. Thinking about the possibilities is just endless of what a child is capable of doing. And I know there's a lot of people around him that are going to try to hold him back from that. But yes, I'm going to speak life into him and help him reach that potential.